What's going on, you guys? It's me, AnarchYxNinja. Today we found a galactic assault match. We couldn't find one just starting, but we will make do. But anyway, today it's a bit of a different video. Well, I mean, it's still Battlefront. We still got at least galactic assault. But I just watched Napoleon. I'm a little late. I finally got around to it. In the Philippines, they released it a little late, and I still went even later than that. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I know, like, the historian side of people don't like the movie. But then there's some who just enjoy it. So I don't know, I'm kind of in the middle. Anyway, spoiler warning, but I mean, come on, if you know history, you know how this movie's gonna go for the most part. But overall, I enjoyed the movie, but there were definitely parts where I'm like, you know, like, I'm just like, I don't know. I don't even know where to begin. Like, some of the battle scenes were pretty good. Visually. They were okay. Let me rephrase that. Visually, the movie's awesome, no doubt. Visually, it's awesome. Some of the battle scenes were good. Other ones, I'm like, I didn't really like the tactics because they didn't really film it how the battle would have actually have happened. I guess the best way of describing it was instead of having like line warfare, like they just come out of a trench and then run at the enemy, and then they just clash. I'm like, well, what's the point of all the firearms then, sir? That's the whole point we developed guns, was so we didn't meet in a field with swords and shields. So I from that standpoint, I didn't really like it. Yes, melee combat did happen, and obviously that's why they have the whole saying face bayonets. But they just, one of the battles in particular, they have the Battle of Austerlitz. And the battle's already taken place down in the field, or icy frozen field, and then Napoleon releases some troops that were in a trench on the side, and they come rushing down the hill, and they don't even fire. Not that I saw anyway. They just run straight into the troops. It's like, well, wouldn't you have at least fired a volley first? What's the point of the fucking rifles then? Or not rifles in that time, but you get what I'm saying. It's like things like that where I'm like, you did enough detail into the movie, in enough research to know how this was, but then you still didn't even attempt to show it in a more accurate light. That's where I'm a little confused, because, you know, I get they have creative liberties, and, you know, not everything's gonna be realistic. I completely understand that, and I'm fine with that. But, like, at least have them stop and make a line, fire by rank a little bit before they go, and then bayonet charge, get in there, rout them. Like, at least I would have understood that. Like, you know, some of the battles were better than the others when it came to that, but the Battle of Austerlitz, visually, 10 out of 10. Awesome. Awesome scene. You know, but, like, it's just little things like that. I'm like, dude, what's the point of the guns then, bro? This ain't some fucking medieval fight. But even then, like, even in medieval fights, they always film them wrong when they do it, you know? Like, even if you're watching the Romans versus the Gauls, it's always just, they meet before, they start yelling, and then they just break into a full charge at each other, which is not how battles happen. So, you know, it doesn't matter what era they do it, and they get it wrong always, you know, but, I did like Joaquin Phoenix's portrayal of him. I thought he did a good job acting. I don't think it was one of his best roles, but I was like, I'm not mad. I'm a little sad they didn't de-age him or have a younger Napoleon, because he looks the same throughout the whole movie, yet it takes place over like 20, 30 years or whatever the fuck the time period was. So that's a little annoying, but, what else? I know nobody asked for this because it's not Star Wars, but it can relate to Star Wars. It reminds me of the Battle of the Crate. Visually, stunning battle. The visuals, spot on. But then the actual battle itself and the way the movie was structured and the way it was edited, I'm like, I don't know. Still not, Napoleon was not nearly as bad as The Last Jedi, so from that standpoint, don't worry. I'm not comparing it to that. I'm just saying, you know, visually, The Last Jedi was awesome, but it sucked. This movie visually was awesome, but the battles, some of it was good, some of it was like, I could have done a little better. You know, like one of the things, how do I word it? Like in those battles, there's a shit ton of dudes, right? There's a lot of soldiers, both sides. And when they did like a wide shot of all the action, it didn't really feel like there was that many soldiers. Like I didn't get the scale. Like there's a big open field, and then there's like 1 or 2 lines of infantry, and then that's it. I'm like, but there's so many more men that would have taken place in that. And no, they're not all just standing in one single line. It's not how it was. But like little things like that, I thought they could have done better. Whether it was CGI or with extras, I know they're not hiring that many extras nowadays. But they didn't even do that, which I thought was a little bit weird to get the scale wrong, I guess. I don't know how to put it, but it wasn't bad. Again, this is me nitpicking. A lot of this stuff is more of a nitpick. It didn't ruin the movie for me. It did keep it from being like, wow, now that is a historic movie we gotta watch. It did keep me from getting to that level. But I enjoyed it, but there was definitely scenes where I'm like, man, like, I feel like we could have done more with that particular scene. And like, again, like, one of the criticisms for those of you interested, there was a lot of people saying his relationship with Josephine. It was a movie about Josephine. It really wasn't, but I get where you're coming from. I think it dove too much into their particular relationship, where yes, it was important, and even at times, I would definitely fucking say, from what we know, he was a fucking simp, but not to the level they portray in the movie. That's where I feel like they took some creative liberties, I'm doing air quotes when I say that, and they made that part of the story a little bigger than it needed to be, or a little more simpy than it needed to be, which is annoying to me. But part of it was real. It's not like they just blew it out of, like, they just made it up out of nowhere. Like, part of that was real. He was a simp, I guess. Some, if you just study the history, I guess some would say he was a simp, but definitely not to the level they portrayed him.
Same as always.
I don't know how to really word this, but I guess the best way I would describe the movie, if you're someone who knows very little about Napoleon, like you've heard the name, right? Most of us have heard the name Napoleon, right? And he was a general. He became emperor. He was a great general, one of the best, if not the best, some would say. And then if you go into the movie expecting it to show that, I don't think it does that at all. I don't need a lot of battle scenes, but they really didn't, again, for an audience that doesn't know history, they didn't really show that at all. Where it's like, there's a lot of jump cuts in that. So I would be prepared for that if you're going into the movie. No, there's going to be huge time jumps. Not that those fuckers age at all, but there's time jumps. But like, it shows the first battle of Toulon where his first command really, and then it just skips the whole Italian campaign, and then he's in Egypt. Now that's a huge time jump for those of you who know history. The Italian campaign is where he really shined for the first time, They completely grazed over that and talked about it briefly in a letter. That was it. They talked about it like, I conquered Italy or whatever without a fight, and
counting on me.
and I'm like, yeah, kind of, but like the Italian campaign itself was a fight, but yeah, you did technically conquer Italy without doing much of anything really, but like the fight up north was huge, and that's where he rose to power, basically, if you will, where it really like distinguished himself. They don't talk about that. So if you go into this movie expecting, wow, this is the best general of all time, and we're gonna get to see that, you're not gonna see that. It had some battle scenes. Some of them were good. Like, what were the battles? It had Toulon. It had Borodino. It had Austerlitz. It had Waterloo. So you get some of the big fights. Borodino, that battle, again, spoiler alert if you really want to know, but it's not really a spoiler alert. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't really a battle. Like, they showed it. There was a cavalry charge that he led a charge. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think Napoleon led any cavalry charges into battle. I don't think that's how it actually was. I think he had his horse shot out from him under him at one point in real life, but again, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not an expert. I'm just a dude who's, I like studying history, but I'm not like some scholar or something, It's just out of fun, what I enjoy. But I don't think he led any cavalry charges. And if he did, I don't think it was many. Let's put it that way. And the movie kept showing him do that, which I think that was an inaccuracy. But again, if there's any actual experts out there, please correct me. I'm always down to learn something new. But I don't think he was leading any cavalry charges. But in the movie, they show him do that. So in the Battle of Borodino, he leads the cavalry charge, and then that's kind of it. So I didn't particularly like that. But it's just like, I don't feel they went into his military exploits enough. And I don't need crazy battle sequences, because, let's face it, Napoleon had a goddamn shit ton. And they didn't really show him, and I don't know. I just kind of was left wanting in that aspect a little bit. Like, one of the best ways of describing it is after seeing a modern Napoleonic time movie with the troops marching and, all the just that era. I'm like, man, we could go for a new movie that really dives in, or not a movie, let me rephrase that. More, again, we always do it, but like a Band of Brothers-esque show, but following Napoleon and the troops. And where the show will give them enough time to show the battles, where a movie won't. You can't really do it in a movie. I think that would be awesome, and that would be on my Christmas fucking wish list. Get something like that, where you're following Napoleon, showing his battles, and it's gonna be a bunch of seasons, so they don't have to rush it like in a movie. Where here, I'm like, wow, you teased me with some of this. Some of the visuals are just awesome. You know, but I feel like they left me wanting, where I'm like, oh, what is this? And then like they cut through history so fast, and I think they personally cut out too much. But in fairness to Ridley Scott, there is going to be a 4-hour version, or the extended cut. So the movie itself was like 2 hours something. So now getting a 4-hour movie, you're going to be adding a lot of time. So maybe in that version it will be better. That's what I'm secretly hoping for. And I'll definitely watch that when it comes out to see. But it just kind of felt like, if you go into the movie like, oh, I've heard of Napoleon, let's see a movie about Napoleon, it really doesn't leave you like, wow, this guy was revolutionary. He was a game changer. He was a bad motherfucking military strategist. You don't really get that vibe, which I think is a big mistake with that, because whether you love him or hate him, he was one of the most important historical figures in the world. Like, he was important. Whether you love him or hate him, I don't care. But he was, you know, fuck it. Let me not say what I was going to say. That'll probably get me canceled. But yeah, like, and I don't feel like leaving the movie, you would get that. It's like, oh, he was an emperor. Oh, you know, started at the bottom, then he got to the top, and then it came crumbling down. But that's so many people's stories in movies. That in Napoleon, there's not a lot of his equals, right? And this isn't just some Napoleon fanboy rant. Like, I'm just being real. That the story they told, and the starts from the bottom, rises to power, then it ultimately comes crashing down. That's a story that gets told throughout time, and a lot of those people in those other stories don't equate to him. So I don't feel like they really did that part justice, where it was like, dude, he came from next to nothing and then rose to being the best military tactician, if you will, ever. Became emperor. He went crazy. It took so many countries to bring him down, and so many tries before they were finally able to whittle him down. How one country was taking on all these other countries, basically, and was defeating them, and sometimes at crazy odds, and was shitting on them. Like, it shouldn't have happened. And the movie does not even remotely cover that. Not even close. Like, they're like, oh, the thing that annoyed me the most, at the end of the movie, they, instead of showing it or hinting at it in the movie, they just put a quick little screen, black screen with white letters, and Napoleon was winner of 61 battles. And then this part, again, I don't really care if you love or hate Napoleon, but at the end, I kind of got the vibe they were trying to portray him as more of a bad guy, because then they showed not all his battles, but some of the battles and losses, and then they would just show the losses next to the battle. But it doesn't tell any context for those battles. It's just, they portrayed it was just him, at least this is the vibe I got. They're portraying it as it was just Napoleon getting his men killed. And I'm like, that's not exactly how it was. You could kind of say that. You could say that for any military leader. You lead troops into battle, they die, you got them killed. That's every military leader who's seen combat in history. If you do lead men into combat and some of them die, you can make that case for every military leader in the history of the world, good or bad. You know, whether it's the United States, whether it's the Nazis, you could make that same case. You led the men into battle, they died. And I kind of took it more like they were trying to portray him in more of a negative light, which I don't think I would have done if, again, I'm not an expert director, but I would have went down the route of show the movie and the fans come up with it. But that last little bit right before the movie ended, I feel like they were trying to, like, he just got a lot of people killed out of his own greed. And it wasn't just that. Part of it was. But that's every fucking military leader, especially in those times where you're not just fighting for your country, you're rising to power when you do it. You know, like generals nowadays aren't rising to power to be the next president, really. Where back then, I mean, you started as an artillery officer and you became emperor. So it's like, you know, that part kind of did annoy me a little bit. What else? He didn't shoot the fucking goddamn pyramids. I know this is a small nitpick, but that the Egypt battles, it wasn't really a battle, really. They just fired cannons and then they ended it. So I don't count that as a battle. But like historical accuracies on there, they failed miserably. I feel like the whole Egypt campaign was just like a waste of time. It was more there, really. The way it felt to me, anyway, was one to show like, hey, he did go to Egypt, but they didn't really go into any details. And then visually it changes the aesthetic of the movie, because a lot of it you're in Europe, same look, and now all of a sudden you're in Egypt, bright sun, sand everywhere. From the visual aspect, it makes sense to go there because it kind of changes the palette. You know, you're like, oh, this is different. But I felt like you didn't have enough time. Maybe in the extended version, different, of course. But like, they show them line up for the Battle of the Pyramids, which is the name of the battle in real life. Side note, the battle did not actually take place at the pyramid. It was like 20 miles away. In the movie, they portray the enemy lining up right in front of the pyramid. There's Napoleon. Napoleon orders his men to fire on the pyramids. And that scares the other soldiers, and then they freak out, and then it kind of cuts from that. And I'm like, that's not how the Battle of the Pyramids even remotely went. So from a historical standpoint, that battle was a complete fucking failure in this movie. It just was stupid. And one of the quotes I heard him say before I saw the movie was, he had Napoleon shoot the pyramids because he wanted to show quickly that Napoleon conquered Egypt, which is not... I don't think that's what that showed in the movie. I didn't get that vibe. I mean, I could kind of see it maybe, but it just really, I don't think it should have been done that way. I feel like that was a little bit distasteful, if you will, because he didn't shoot the fucking pyramids. But again, part of the, we talked about it on stream, and we gotta make sure the Elgato doesn't freeze. So if the video cuts while I'm talking, it's because the Elgato froze. But in real life, there was a theory that, or a theory, I don't know, or a story that he had his cannon, or his artillery shoot the Sphinx's nose, I think it was, which didn't happen. The damage to the Sphinx was not caused by artillery or a cannonball. But I think that's where he kind of got that, and then he just kind of went off the rails a bit and went down even further down that road, which just, I personally didn't really enjoy that. As a guy who likes closer to historical accuracy than, you know, making up everything, I really didn't like the Egypt part. You know, they didn't even talk about him finding the Rosetta Stone, which is important for history, and they completely glossed over that. So from that standpoint, I really didn't like it, but I'm a little conflicted, though, because, again, I overall enjoyed the movie. It's not like, wow, now that is a movie you got to see, dude. That is awesome. It was like, you know, it's a historical movie. End of story. It's more like that, but... like, if you go into it expecting it to be some just absolute historical epic masterpiece, I don't think you should do that. It's not. You're gonna get let down if you do that. You know, if you enjoy history visually, you're gonna like it. Some of the stuff I think was awesome, but I didn't feel a sense, like when he was losing, I didn't feel a sense of, oh, they finally got him. It was more like, and this happened, moving on. Like, it didn't get the emotional response. How do I word it? I don't know. It just didn't really strike a chord, if you will. But again, maybe the longer version of the movie will work in his defense, but I just didn't get the vibe that he really, from what we saw in the movie, that it really, he rose to power because of his military. I'm sure they said it at times, but instead of just saying he's badass, I think they should have showed that a little more, where I really don't think they did a good job with that. That's where I'm a little let down with the military side of things. And again, oh, well, it's not all battles. I know, but you're making a movie about the greatest general of all time who rose to power because of that. I felt like they just kind of missed that opportunity, where it's like, man, you had the money for the visuals. I really feel like they should have went all in on it. And I think it could have been an awesome historical movie. Again, whether you love or hate them, it's just like it would go down for the ages of now. That is a good fucking historical movie right there. I feel like they could have accomplished that. And I don't feel like they did. But again, visually, 10 out of 10, man. Honestly, awesome visuals. Makes me want to fire up Total War Napoleon right now and lead some men into fucking battle. Gonna get them killed because I fucking suck. But, you know, I kind of want to do it. I know I'm forgetting a lot of things, man. What am I forgetting here?
Kill the intruders.
A lot of trenches in the warfare. Again, a little nitpick, but I don't really feel like they captured the essence of that battle very well. Like I just feel like they missed it with the battle scenes. And again, I mean, even Game of Thrones does it. All the movies do it, but like what's that movie called? British in Africa, Zulu. Back in the day. Most of you probably have no fucking idea what I'm talking about. That's fine. But maybe some of the older dudes, you know. But in that movie, even though obviously it's old, the graphics aren't up to date, if you will, they have an awesome depiction of fire by rank. Where the British troops just set up and then fire, 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 fire. And the 3 rows are just absolutely shitting on the Zulu. Because they got them basically in the perfect situation to use ranked fire. And they showed it and depicted that. And I feel like they could have had a moment like that in the movie where they showed the awesome tactics of that era. Where you don't want to get caught like that. And I just don't feel like they did. It was a lot of Napoleon would raise his hand and somehow they would all know to charge or fire the cannon. Everybody just knew what he would do when he raised his hands. Which I thought was a small nitpick. That's not how you would have ordered men like that. But anyway, you know, small nitpick. But I feel like they just didn't have that. Like, I was kind of hoping to see that. There's times they kind of show ranked fire, but not really effectively. Like, I feel like they, again, I just feel like they missed the mark on a lot of that shit. Where I'm like, dude, I feel like he could have nailed it if you had a dude there that was like, oh, no, let's shoot it like this. You get the same outcome. It doesn't really add any shoot time to the movie. It's not going to make it longer, but let's have it be more portrayed a little more accurate. I think they could have just had a few more of those moments where it would have really hit the nail on the head, especially for the historical side. Because I know, for those who pay attention to the drama, there was Ridley Scott came out and was talking a lot of shit towards the historical community, because they were like, this movie's not particularly great. And he came out and started talking shit. And I don't think you should do that, because you're literally making a historical movie. This isn't a parody of a historical movie. You're making a historical movie. And then to call out the people you make the movie for doesn't make sense to me. And again, one of my reasons I'll say you made it from historians, because if you don't know the story going in, you're going to be left with a little confusion, or like, well, wait, now he's this happens, now he's emperor. And like a lot of time jumps and like, well, what is this? What does this particular moment signify? What's happening here? If it says the treaty of this, you don't know what the treaty is. You're just like, well, I'm guessing somebody surrendered and there's peace. But it's not really going into detail, or not even great detail. You're just kind of left like, I'm not entirely sure what's going on, but I guess he's winning. I guess they're surrendering and signing. I guess he won. But it's not really telling you the significance of the battles or the moments itself. Where if you don't know the history going in, you're going to be a little confused. You might get the gist of it. Starts from the bottom, now we're here, and now we're back on the bottom. You'll get the gist of it, but it's just like, from that standpoint, I feel like you made it for the historical side, and then to come out and talk shit about him, I'm like, you confused me a little bit there, Ridley, on that one, you know. But I don't know. Again, overall, I think you guys should see it. Come up with your own opinions. I'm not telling you to not see it, especially if you're into history. You know, my girlfriend actually, who knows nothing about history, she heard the name, that's about it. She kept up with the story relatively well. And she's not into history in any way. So, you know, from that standpoint, you could enjoy it. But it's just, I don't know. I'm at the end, I'm just like, man, it could have been so much fucking better, honestly. Where, man, I wish we could get a Band of Brothers-esque thing where you just follow Napoleon or follow his troops throughout his campaigns. I think that would be fucking awesome. But again, it would have to be a bunch of seasons to tell the story properly, where in a movie, even a 4-hour version, I feel like they're going to miss a lot. But, I know there's something else, but I'm drawing a blank on it. What am I forgetting? This is more of a small nitpick again. And again, maybe in the extended version it'll be different. They didn't talk about or show his marshals hardly at all, if at all. I don't even know if they showed them, or maybe they just had them there and that's supposed to be them, but they never mentioned their name or anything. But it's just like, how do I put it? Because this to the average person who's not into history, this is gonna sound nitpicky, but like he redefined the way militaries moved. He started the corps system, which we still use today in the military, where he would divide up his military into a bunch of different corps, and all the different marshals or whatever would get control of one, and then they would all move on the same target but in different ways. And I feel like they should have went into that a little more, not even in great detail, just have mentioned like, oh, whether it's Marat or whatever the fuck you want to say it, or one of his other marshals, like, oh, he's leading this group here, Bernadotte's going here. Like, I think they should have mentioned it at the very least to check the box, where even if we're not going to go into it in detail, most of the average people wouldn't understand, but at least to the historical side, you would have been like, oh, okay, they're actually showing that his marshals are doing this. This one's over here doing this, but they're all congregating for the big battle. You know, I feel like they could have just added the dialogue in, and it would have helped make it a little more accurate. Where here, it really didn't do that. And part of it, instead of giving some of the credits to his marshals, it was more, in a weird way, towards Josephine, where it's like, everything I am is because of you. I think that's fucking a little borderline ridiculous. Again, I know he was kind of a simp in real life, but not to the extent they show in the movie. Where I'm like, I think they put her importance a little too high in the movie, and it's just like, I don't know. Like, they kind of portrayed her death. They didn't say it. This is kind of open to interpretation, but I kind of got the vibe they were making it like he lost the Battle of Waterloo because she died. And they didn't say that. I'm not saying they said it, but that's the way the movie was structured. I kind of got left feeling like that was the vibe. And that's not what actually happened. But, you know, like little things like that where I'm like, I feel like she was important to him. No fucking doubt. But I think they made her a little too important for some of the scenes. Where I'm like, dude, at the end of the day, he is the greatest general of all time, basically. And he had some awesome men under his command that I feel like they didn't even go into. I feel like they missed the mark. I like saying that, I guess. That's a good phrase, I guess. I feel like they could have nailed that a little better. What else? Like, I guess I would compare it to Gladiator. I don't know why Gladiator is the first movie that came to mind. But Russell Crowe's character. You follow his whole story, and when it builds up to the end, it's an emotional moment, right? And I didn't get that vibe with Napoleon. And again, they're not the same character, obviously. Different backstory. You could make a case Napoleon's bad, just leading people to battle and blah, blah, blah. You could, if you really wanted to. So from that standpoint, it's different. But I just feel like there was no emotional side to it, where maybe it's because they cut so fast, or what? I really don't know, but it was just like, oh, it's over. One of the only scenes I liked that it wasn't really emotional, but I thought they were going to skip it and they didn't, is when he returns from Elba and they send, what was the, I think it was the 5th Corps or 5th Regiment or something. They sent some of France's men to arrest Napoleon when he came back from Elba and was gonna like, hey, I'm back, bitches, I want power again. And they did show that scene in the movie, which I didn't think they were, but he basically comes out, hey, don't you recognize me? And they all like, hey, that's our homie, long live the Emperor, and they all flock to him, which is realistic, that did happen. So that was the only moment where I felt that connection between him and his soldiers, where he was such a great, or did such a great job at connecting with his men and had their loyalty. Like, they would literally, yo, you want to go across this bridge? We're gonna fucking die, but for you, we would do it. Like, they don't just follow any leader like that, but they followed him. And I didn't really get that vibe. That was the only time in the movie where they tried to go into the love between him and his troops and vice versa. That again, I feel like they should have done that. And again, maybe in the extended version they will. So from that standpoint, I'll wait till I see that, because I'll definitely watch it. I love this era. Napoleon's awesome. I don't give a fuck what people say. But it's just like, man, I also don't like that I need to go see an extended version to get that, where the movie didn't cut into it. Because at the end of the day, I want to see that shit in the theaters, homie. But I also don't want to sit through a 4-hour movie in the theaters, so, you know. But anyway. I don't know. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head. But the moment I stop talking, I'll remember it. But anyway, if you guys have seen it, let me know what you think. I'm always down for another opinion. Let's go, Vader. Let's go, Vader. We'll just finish this game out. I don't know. We're getting in the freeze territory of the video. We might be freezing, but hopefully not. Hopefully we can finish this game, but yeah, I'm kind of expecting it to freeze here. Especially if we push by. So brace yourselves, just in case I do freeze by. See you guys later, just in case. You never know. Let's get the outro out of the way, just in case. Oh, Vader's sucking me off. You're not supposed to suck your son off, Vader, just saying. I did hit swing there, by the way, but I guess he just didn't want to. I can't kill my father. I can sense the good in you. Like, bro, I don't know, man. Side note, I still don't know if Vader should have been welcome back to the light side in the Force Afterlife. I don't know, man. He did some pretty fucking bad shit, and then be like, oh, I guess he's back now. He killed the Emperor! Yeah, but like, he literally also allowed a lot of shit to happen. I don't know if we could justify it. I'm just saying, man, I don't know. What the hell? Vader, you're on me? Fuck, where did you come from, homie? I didn't even know you were here, homie. Oh, we're gonna get this done. Check those Cedo, cuh. Ah. Side note, the Siege of Shulan visually was actually pretty fucking awesome. I really like that battle. That was probably my favorite battle, actually. Like, that's the one battle where I feel like they did kind of go into the tactics and try to show his brilliance. Like, we need to take the city. Well, we can't. Well, the only way to do it is if you take the fort overlooking the harbor where the British fleet is, which is the lifeline for the British troops that are in the city. You can take the fort, you can then fire on the ships, take the ships out, which will force the British to withdraw, and you don't have to actually storm the city. That was the only time I feel like they went into tactics that I liked. Side note. But anyway, I've ranted long enough if the video hasn't frozen. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this long 30-minute rant video. And I guess I'll see you guys later. Bye.